Hello friends, this is Russian Torts here, and today we're going to be talking about tortoise hibernation, because it is that time of the year again where everyone asks themselves this question: should I hibernate my tortoise? It's getting cold outside, it must be getting cold where the tortoise is from. Should I hibernate? So I'm going to try to help you answer that question in this video. Before we go even any further, this question is really simple to answer if you have a tropical tortoise. So look up if your tortoise needs to hibernate in the first place. Tropical tortoises, like redfoot tortoises for example, don't hibernate because where they're from in the wild, it doesn't get cold enough for the tortoise to need to hibernate. So if you have a species like that, you can click away from this video right now because your tortoise does not need to hibernate and you're pretty much set. However, if you have a tortoise species that does need to hibernate, such as Russian tortoises in the wild, this question becomes a little bit more difficult to answer, and that's what we're going to be talking about in this video. So to find out if your tortoise species needs to hibernate, just do a quick little Google search and there will be answers that'll tell you, yes, your tortoise does hibernate, it hibernates in the wild, and that is all you need. You don't need to get into the answers of opinions of people, which is pretty much what this video is about. It just, quick little Google search will tell you if your tortoise hibernates in the wild. Let's assume you have a tortoise that hibernates in the wild. Why should you hibernate your tortoise in captivity if it hibernates in the wild? Well, there's a couple of answers to this. Many argue that not hibernating your tortoise is actually dangerous to the tortoise's health, and therefore you should do everything in your power to hibernate the tortoise because it will have long-term health effects. It won't, kill your tortoise right away, but overall it'll have effects on the tortoise's health in the long term. Another reason to hibernate your tortoise is if you're interested in breeding your tortoise in the future, it's necessary for them to hibernate to kind of get into the right mood after hibernation, because tortoises in the wild breed in the spring. It's necessary to hibernate them and then simulate spring after they wake up to kind of make the tortoises get into the mood. And really the key argument is that, first of all, the health, but also in the wild, tortoises hibernate, and really they know what's good for them. So if they hibernate in the wild, why would you not hibernate your tortoise in captivity? Well, I don't hibernate, Potilla, and I'll tell you why right now. So, primary reason why I do not hibernate my Russian tortoise is because I do not have the space to do it safely. If you hibernate your tortoise improperly, it can result in your tortoise dying fairly easily, and I do not want to risk that. So you need to have a large enough space that you can keep at a consistent temperature at 4 degrees Celsius, which usually means a fridge. But you don't just need a little space in your fridge, you kind of need to have the whole fridge for your tortoise, because you need to put a large box in there to keep the humidity up high enough, and it's just, I would need to essentially buy another fridge to hibernate my tortoise in, which I currently do not have the space for because I'm living in a student apartment. So that's why I'm not hibernating my Russian tortoise, because I can't do it safely. It's way safer to not hibernate your tortoise than to do it improperly. If you do it improperly, you risk immediate death. If you don't do it, sure, some people will argue that you're putting your tortoise's long-term health at risk, but a lot of other people also argue, if you go on Google and you do research, that it's fine to not hibernate your tortoise. And this is not just people stating their opinions like me. These are actually people who have bred tortoises for a long time, who know a lot about the topic. They will argue that you do not need to hibernate your tortoise or turtle, because the same applies to turtles. Now, there are other reasons for not hibernating your tortoise as well. For example, your tortoise could be sick. If you have a sick tortoise and has a cold or any other disease, and therefore you have a tortoise that's weak, you don't want to risk hibernating it, because this might result in the tortoise not waking up from its sleep because it's just too sick to wake up, and then you result in your tortoise dying. A lot of people also argue that you shouldn't hibernate your tortoise in its first year of its life. So if you just got a tiny little cute baby tortoise, you should wait until it's 2 or 3 years old before you start hibernating it. Of course, baby tortoises hibernate in the wild, that's for sure, but it's a lot more risky for the young little tortoises to hibernate. They don't have that much energy like the larger tortoise is stored up, it's not as safe for them to hibernate. So in the end, should you hibernate your tortoise? Really, the decision's up to you. I personally think it is not necessary. However, it is better for your tortoise. If I could hibernate Potilla, I definitely would. I tried when I first got her 10 years ago in Germany when we actually had some space to do it. Didn't work out. I probably also didn't really know what I was doing back then. But I think it's definitely the better choice. If you have the space and the knowledge and a healthy tortoise, I would definitely recommend hibernating your tortoise. If, however, you do not have the space to do it safely, I would much encourage you to not hibernate your tortoise. Just play it safe. Let your tortoise kind of hibernate on its own in its cage. So this is something Potilla does every year, and it kind of fascinates me. She just, for 2 months during the winter time in her cage, she becomes inactive. She just sits in her hut for 2 months at a time and doesn't do anything. She does the same thing over the summer months, where she estivates during the summer months. And this kind of signals to me that she wants to hibernate, but I don't let her hibernate because I can't do it, so she does it in her cage. So that is something you might notice your tortoise doing as well. And if your tortoise does that when you're not hibernating it, don't be alarmed. This is what happens with Potilla every single year. I get freaked out every time. I'm like, oh no, what's she doing? But she does this every year. 2 months in the winter, 2 months in the summer. That's just how they work. It's how their internal clock works. Even though their cage stays nice and warm, they just realize that it's time for them to sleep. So I hope you enjoyed the video, and I hope I answered some of your questions about tortoise hibernation. Like I said before, I've not hibernated Potilla for the last 9 years that I had her. 10 years? 10 years. So I've had her for 10 years. I've not hibernated her at all in those 10 years, and she's been gaining weight and in the last couple of years maintaining her weight because she's fully grown now. And I don't see any health side effects. You might argue that these health side effects are going to be long-term, but a lot of reputable breeders and experts on tortoises, which I guess is a funny title, say that it's not bad for their health to not hibernate. So it's something for you to keep in mind. Obviously, it's your own decision to make. If you want to hibernate your tortoise, that's awesome. If you have the space to do it, go ahead, hibernate your tortoise. It's the best thing probably for your tortoise. If you don't have the space, if you don't have the time, if you don't have the experience, if you don't have a healthy tortoise, if any of the reasons I previously mentioned apply to you, you don't need to hibernate your tortoise. It's also safe, it's fine if you don't do it. Your tortoise might just take a little 2-month nap time during the winter months. So I hope you enjoyed the video. If you're interested in seeing any more tortoise videos or animal videos, go check out the rest of the videos on my channel. If you're not already a subscriber, subscribe to see more content in the future. I upload every Friday at 5 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, so stay tuned for that. And with that, that's everything for today. So thank you for watching, and I'll see you guys next time.